years ago, I wanted to learn a little bit more about investing in stocks. And one of my friends and I had attended a financial, I think it was a financial day of just learning for women. And it was Deborah Owens. So I thought, you know what? I just want to learn a little bit more. Well, I joined WealthyU, and I did not realize that I was going to learn far more than just stocks. She also has a book out. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But I learned so much about real estate that you wouldn't learn in a normal daily setting. Just something you wouldn't learn just having conversations with your friends. I learned just the breadth of it, and I thought, wow, I didn't know I could invest in a group. I just didn't know from stocks that your stocks are personal. And I actually divested from a particular company. It's a very large, well-known company because I didn't care for the leadership style and how they treated their employees. So I divested and I invested in another company just based on their leadership and how they cared for their employees. So I learned the personal part of investing from WealthyU. I also read her book from cover to cover, Wealth Secrets. It was fascinating. So I'm not going to spend so much time talking to you about my participation in WealthyU. I am an alumni, but we're going to get started here. So welcome to Lead Like You Mean It, people. It's a live series where we have bold, honest conversations with real leaders who bring confidence, care, and clarity to the way they lead. I'm your host, Carla Coates. And today we'll explore what it takes to lead with confidence in times of uncertainty and change. And our guest is Miss Deborah Owens, known as America's Wealth Coach. And she is a former Fidelity Investments Vice President and the founder of WealthyU. With over 2 decades in the financial service industry, she has dedicated her career to helping women overcome fear, build confidence, and step boldly into investing and wealth creation. And through WealthyU, she has guided thousands of women in transforming from cautious savers to confident leaders of their financial future. And in this episode, we're going to unlock what leaders can learn from Miss Deborah's journey. So, Deborah Owens, thank you so much for being a guest. As an alumni of WealthyU, I welcome you wholeheartely.
Well, I gotta tell you how grateful I am to be on your show. Right, you're sharing your story, and that story touched my heart because that's the reason I built WealthyU. Was for women like you. I'm a first generation investor. Had I never gone into the financial field, I would know nothing. And so, as a result of that experience, it really made me see that the knowledge of how to build wealth is inherited.
Yeah.
And so, if no one in your family ever led in that area financially, then that's how, that's why so many people wonder why they don't have this knowledge. It's because it's not learned through your formal education. It's something that is either passed down from your family. So I am excited to have this conversation with you, particularly because of these uncertain times. And I believe when you learn how to become a leading lady of your finances, that really allows you to be able to weather any economic storms. And in fact, learn how to leverage it and make it an opportunity.
Beautiful. This is not included in our list of questions. Could you share about your mom and how that influenced your financial future?
Yes, well, my mother's story kind of leads everything. And as a young woman, what I'm sure many people have experienced is my parents separated after 33 years of marriage. And I was 18 years old at the time, and I actually adored my father. I thought he would, I would find someone just like him to provide. And, my parents had just gotten ready to retire. They moved to Hawaii, where one of my sisters was born. My father was in the Navy. And then, almost a year later, after my mother retiring, they separated. And I saw her standard of living, go from solid middle class to, just about above poverty, because now my father had to take care of two homes in one of the most expensive places in the world to live. And, as I look at it now, and I reflected as I went into my career, I understood why financial knowledge was so important to me personally, because when that happened, I said I would always have a purse of my own.
Yeah.
And that, in fact, is the title of one of the 5 books that I've written. And what I found out, though, Carla, was that my mother's story was the rule and not the exception. 9 out of 10 women will be responsible for their finances. They will either never marry, they will either marry, separate, and divorce. My parents never divorced because of the finances, or their husbands will predecease them. And yet we still have this kind of trope out here. You see it, Real Housewives of Atlanta, how many of the Real House franchise, how many of those women are actually married or end up going through a divorce, while it's happening. And so at that point, I had spent a career in financial services, and I learned what are the secrets of the wealthy and how you become financially independent. And I wanted to share it with the world. And that took me on quite the journey. I toured with Bishop Jakes, God's Leading Ladies, and have been on a number of programs from CNN to ABC, News One Now, and then spent some time on News One, a segment I called WealthyU with Roland Martin. And so that journey really gave me more exposure because the whole goal is to help 1 million women get to 1 million in their portfolios, and we have them happening every day. It's exciting to get these texts. And so, so my mother, and she passed 2 years ago, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't either say something she says or think about her. So she was a fascinating, one of the most generous women that I know. And here's what's interesting. As she was becoming ill, there were all these women coming in to see her. And they said, they would say things like, "Oh, your mother taught me how to organize." Now, my mother so that was the blessing in that separation. She became a different person. She had never swam. She learned how to swim. She became quite the activist. I had a friend, I'm from Detroit. I had a friend call me, "Your mother's in the newspaper. She's marching on Detroit public schools," right? And so, and then she would travel with me on all of my speaking engagements. So in the second part of her life, and this is what I want all women to understand, is you have everything you need to be everything you need to be. The only thing between you and achieving the kind of financial independence that you deserve and desire and deserve is knowledge, right?
Yes.
And so you can make phenomenal changes at any point. All it takes is a decision.
And what kind of decision is that?
Well, that decision, number one, is to ask for help.
Yeah.
How many of us feel like we can do it all on our own? Or, maybe you're on YouTube watching a bunch of things, that you think you're going to learn. And the danger of that access is you have people who don't really know, right? And so I think what's important and what's important for me, I am a big champion of personal development for myself, like you're a leadership coach.
Yes.
If I wanted to lead and learn how to be a better leader, guess what? I'd invest with the leadership coach with a proven track record. And so that's really what I had to determine, Carla, is can I really help a woman get to 7 figures, right? And then one morning, after starting WealthyU, I get this text. I never thought I would be one of those women with a 7-figure retirement portfolio of over $1 million. And then 2.5 years later, I get another text from the same woman that said, now I'm almost at 2 million. Right. So it's Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's colleague who passed a few years ago, said to get to 100K is the hardest. And to get to 6 figures is the hardest, your first 6 figures. But after that, that's when you can really accelerate your financial growth. And that's exactly what we do in WealthyU. It's not enough to earn it. Like a salary is not security, right? Because we're seeing it now.
Absolutely.
So many people are losing their incomes. And, a high earner, particularly a first generation high earner, can have great risk, right? Because now you've kind of got lifestyle that you're accustomed to and that income, and it requires you to find another job that has that same kind of income. And as you go up in income, the opportunities get lower. And so the key is I like for people to look at their income as the seed, right? So you've got to take a portion of what you're earning and you have to turn that income into wealth. And you do that. What do I mean by that? Is you have to put it into other assets that are going to work, whether, 24 hours, right? So whether it's your retirement portfolio, whether it's investing in real estate, whether it's a consulting practice, even while you're working, so that you can no longer, it's sort of like your portfolio needs to be diversified. So does your income sources.
Yes. So that you kind of answered the question. I had another one I was going to ask. So give me an example of a woman who makes, let's say, $50,000 a year. What areas should she invest in?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is she's got to make more money.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to tell you,
I remember those calls.
You are undervaluing yourself. You got a BA, an MBA, 2 MBAs, and you're making $50,000. That's crazy to me, right? So you've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars. I need you to get a return on investment. So that's one of the first things I'll do is really work with my clients to make them to have them earn more income, because you need more income, because a 50K salary, you can barely meet your basic needs, right? So I need you to focus on that so there's something left over. But here's a true story. And this just happened a few weeks ago. And she was an alum and then just renewed. So true story, she says, Miss Owens, you're not going to believe this. She says, but I remember my first conversation with you was, you got to make more money. And she said, and I really took that to heart. And then, we have I have different speakers come in to talk to you, career coaches. Right. And so what was on mindset? And she said, that was mine. I had a poverty mindset. I had been teaching kids how to use tech. And I had a gentleman say to me, you need to become a software engineer yourself so you can make more money. And she said, well, you know what? I kind of deflected that. Right. But here's what happened. She was making about $55,000 a year. She said, Miss Owens, I doubled my income. And then she said to me, I said, well, how much did you have when you started? And she said, I was in my mid 40s. And when I told you all I had was $12,000, you were like, oh no,
Yeah.
that is unacceptable, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, how much do you have now? And this is, I want to say 3 years later. She says 200,000.
All
Is
right.
that crazy?
Yeah.
Right? So the point is, you've got to make more money, but what we do is help you leverage what you already have. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have to take the investments that you already have and you have to make them grow faster.
Mm-hmm.
So many women are risk averse.
Yeah.
And that's that what I call the income mindset, playing not to lose instead of
Mm-hmm.
playing to win. And
Mm-hmm.
so at WealthyU, we teach you how to win, as you well know. The more knowledge you learn, we have a framework called our blueprint, and it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
analyze, optimize, maximize. And when you analyze what you have, and then you optimize it and make it grow more rapidly, that really is the secret to building wealth.
Yeah.
Right. So often we feel like, Carla, oh, if we just get this lump sum, if we, that'll be all of our that'll solve all of our problems. No, we have to learn how to make what we already have grow. Now,
Yes.
here's a true story. Talk
Absolutely.
about analyze. One of our
Mm.
members came, and when I looked at her personal rate of return, she had been investing in her retirement account for 20 years, and she had a negative 3.3% return. Now
Wow.
you're wondering, well, how could that be?
Right.
Well, because she was putting money in, it was always going up in value,
Mm-hmm.
right, from the additional dollars she was contributing.
Mm-hmm.
But what she was investing in was not growing.
Okay.
And so literally her investment portfolio should have been double. And in fact, since being in WealthyU has doubled,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because she now put it in better performing investments. She also didn't know, through her employer, she had a self-directed brokerage account, which allowed her to not be limited to just the funds that her employer offered. She could get a self-directed brokerage account and then invest in all different companies' funds.
Now.
And that's part of the issue. We
Yes.
don't even know what we don't know. But here's what's
Yes.
funny. I've looked at thousands of these accounts. And I mean, you literally have to go digging,
Mm-hmm.
like, where's Waldo,
Yep.
right,
Yep. Yep.
in order to find this information.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something where it's two things I was thinking of. I was thinking about that woman with that I just asked about. She makes $50,000. So I remember participating in certain meetings, and certain ladies would bring that up, and you said, well, you need to get another job. You need to get more income. But the other thing I thought of, and it's just what you were saying towards the end, we have to dig for just to find out where we are. And if you could I'd like for you to talk about working with your supposedly financial investor and how that may help you and how that may hurt you. I've seen it how it actually hurts them because they want to maintain oversight over someone's portfolio instead of letting them in and letting them make decisions themselves.
Well, that's the difference, right? So here's what I want you to understand. Now, I didn't realize this when I came up. I started with Merrill Lynch, then went on to Fidelity, then went on to some other financial services companies, right? In most of those cases, I worked with high net worth individuals. And so what many people don't realize is that all companies have a risk profile. And that risk profile is that questionnaire that they design. And so how you answer those questions will reflect what kind of risk tolerance you have.
Okay.
So if they answer the question, oh, well, how much knowledge do you have, right? And you say, I'm a beginner, well, you're going to be slotted into something. Okay. And so every company, in order to make sure that their advisors are compliant, all have a little box that they have to fill,
Uh-huh.
right? And so as a result of that, algorithms have been around for years. It's just not AI. And so that's one of the way they call it risk tolerance questionnaire. They're required by the SEC to know their customers, right? So they don't necessarily want to put you in something that they feel is too aggressive. Now,
Okay.
the downside of that is then that's limiting you. And the downside of that is oftentimes you don't realize that how you're answering those questions are impacting what kind of investments you're put into.
Mm,
Also, the
mm,
other thing you have to understand is what kind of advisor do you have? There are all kinds, right? So there are advisors that work for insurance companies. So if they work for insurance companies, what do you think they're probably going to offer you?
insurance
Right?
companies.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
insurance, right? Like
Yep.
annuities or that sort of thing. And so, what I believe, and they are advisors, they are going to tell you what to do. You are paying additional fees. You're already paying fees to investment companies in their mutual funds, management fees, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also, if you're not paying anything up front, then you're probably paid a commission if you're not paying anything outside, like a fee.
Okay.
And then you have fee only advisors, and those fee only advisors charge you a fee. It could be like up to $1 million. It might be 0.5%, which is $5,000 a year. So you're saying, okay, I'm going to pay you to take care of this for me.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the problem: financial ignorance is expensive. So, do you
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying?
100%.
Plus, that person that had the -3%, she had a company that her organization allowed a company where they said they would manage your account,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, I've had so often, uh, people are as long as their account doesn't go down, they're fine in
Mm-hmm.
value,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they don't know how to calculate their personal rate of return. They don't know how to actually analyze or research those investments to see if they are performing. Listen, if you want average, then you need to just buy an index fund because it's going to go up and down with the market. But if you want above average returns, you're going to have to be able to roll up your sleeves and really, like you
Mm-hmm.
learn how to look at 10-year average annual
Yes.
returns. Make sure that they're, above their category in the index. I'm not going to get too technical. That is the issue. The issue is that if you delegate that authority to someone, then they're not there to teach you. I'm not a financial advisor. I felt like I would I worked with a lot of high net worth individuals. We would do plans and they would feel relieved, but I wouldn't, because I knew as soon as they went out of that office, they were, number one, never going to look at that plan. They'd look at their account. They say, if my account's not going down in value, right, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if the market goes down, because they don't understand the why behind the recommendations that were made, they're going to be fearful and they're going to want to bail at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
Because as you know, in WealthyU, we believe that you never lose, you either win or you learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what
Right.
we also found, and you were there with COVID, and you
Mm-hmm.
saw the number of women who, my conversation was, this is an opportunity. And then a year later, 2 years later, many of those women's portfolio who hung in there, their portfolios have doubled. And the
Yeah.
other the thing I want to say as well, Carla, is I believe that we are in what is Web 3.0 in steroids, right? So Web 1.0 was the internet, Web 2.0 was PCs and phones, and then Web 3.0 we thought it was going to be what the metaverse with all of this, and then AI came in. The impact that AI is making, two, one is disruption, and we're already seeing that, right? With people getting laid off because companies are able to do more with less. But we're just at the cusp of things. And I will say that this next decade is going to bring amazing opportunities on the investment side as well as on the career side. But what it's going to require is for people to engage and update their skill set to align with this new technology, because there's going to be a whole set of jobs now for implementation. I mean, AI, you got to tell AI to do something, right? Like, and I think we're very rudimentary now. Now they're coming up with what they call ways to make agents that are fundamentally going to be able to do work that in so much less time. They just had an app, I forget what it is, a coder code for 30 hours straight.
Wow.
Right? And so can a human do that? No. Right? So, and you think about it, we've been told, well, tech is the one thing that, is not going to be impacted. Well, yeah, it is. Right? And so if I were a software engineer or something like that, I would be retooling and focused on AI. So the point I want to make is I really feel like the opportunity is on the investment side. Still legacy companies like the Magnificent Seven, Microsoft, Facebook, Alphabet, all of those are companies are investing in other AI companies as opposed to try to do it internally. Apple's behind the 8 ball because they tried to do it internally. It's not working. And then we have just some phenomenal companies from semiconductors. It's going to require a lot of computing, a lot of storage. And so that's what we're researching and analyzing in WealthyU. We do a mutual fund and a stock every month. And I believe that this is going to be a great opportunity for people to accelerate the rate of returns on their investment portfolios. But you've got to do your homework.
Yes.
You gotta, it can't be, I'm going on YouTube, they say that was a good investment.
No,
because roll up your sleeves.
No. Yeah. And then it kind of, when you go on YouTube, it's just something that's going to show you something for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And how are you going to align that with your funds? I mean, you show me something 2 or 3 minutes, I cannot sit there and learn what you know, what you're saying that because a lot of them come across with just, I'm just going to tell you what to do, but they don't have the knowledge that's going to help me in years to come. It's something that's quick, so I can get a video out there, but it really doesn't help me with my investment. So anyway.
Well, that's what's important. And I want to go back to the fact that I had to operationalize my knowledge, right? And that operationalizing that knowledge is our framework. It's called our blueprint. And that is now responsible, right, for teaching thousands of women how to manage their portfolio and accelerate their financial growth. So as you well know, Carla, we're old school, right? Like we literally roll up our sleeves.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching you the same way an analyst of a portfolio manager would make a decision on analysis on stocks. When you mutual funds, I teach you how Morningstar comes up with their ratings. That criteria. Just because something is 5-star doesn't make it a great fund, as you well know, right?
I remember that.
Yeah, and so what I want to say to people is that it is not enough to just go online and somebody recommends something and you invest in it.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you need to have a framework and a process. And I knew when more women were hitting their first six figures, their first seven figures by using this framework, that we had a process that once that knowledge is transferred, no one can ever take it away from you. And you can use it to not only evaluate in your portfolio, because if you remember, one of our members went on to go into real estate. She started
Yes.
syndication, and that's who came. And what did she have? She had criteria. She had her workbook. She had her framework and a process. And it was something certainly that she had learned from someone else, but now she was able to convey it. And so I think that's the other opportunity you have with WealthyU. So it's the community. It's seeing other women just like yourself who, you may see them, they start with them in a cohort, and you'll say, man, she's really getting ahead. And then that encourages you to apply yourself more. And as you well know, all of our facilitators are former members, right?
Yeah. And so one of the things I did learn is that what you just said about, oh, this particular woman, because we're in the group, and this particular woman has just excelled. Well, why aren't you, Carla? That's because I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting there. There's no action. There's no execution. Well, she did it because she learned and she executed, and she had financial results. And I thought in the beginning, I remember sitting at my desk right in the corner of this room, and it was 2 or 3 months that I was into WealthyU, and I saw it. I thought, oh my gosh, I can't remember the lady's name, but I can see her face. And I sat there and I said, you know what? You're not doing anything, Carla. No wonder you're still here. And when I started to do things, I started to learn more. I started to execute. And I thought, oh, it's because I'm not involved. I'm present, but I'm not involved. I'm not.
Yeah, you cannot be a conscientious observer when it comes to investing. The only way you're going to learn, and a lot of that is fear. And so, as you well know, we have different levels in WealthyU, and you were in, my highest level, right? And that gave you access to me. And so that's about sitting beside you.
Yeah.
And, and encouraging you and showing you how to get away to the fear. Here's what I want everybody to understand is that everything that you want to achieve is on the other side of that fear.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I'm with you.
Because that's where the growth is.
Because you know what? Well, you've heard of Lionel Richie. I was watching this show. He's talking about his book. I saw it at a talk show. I don't know, must have been last week. Anyway, he said he shared something that his father shared with him. He said, you know what the difference is between a coward and a hero? He said, both of them are scared. It's just that the hero takes a step. The coward doesn't.
That's right. Do it scared.
Yeah.
I love it. Do it scared. And I'm so glad you brought up, we're having this conversation about fear, because that's one of the things I had to learn about money. And that's why I spend so much time on mindset. So one of our other is mindset, strategy, and execution, right? And so, here's what I know to be true, especially if you didn't come from wealth, is that you can earn over six figures and still have a poverty mindset.
Yes.
And that poverty mindset will tell you to spend every dime that you have. And so you're functioning with a day-to-day mindset. You could have a poor mindset, right? And that's that week-to-week paycheck mindset. You could have a middle-class mindset, and that is what most of us have, is a middle-class mindset. We're even sold things based on how much we can afford monthly. Our mortgages are sold to us that way, cars,
Yep.
monthly
Cars.
payments, right?
Right.
And so, the middle class thinks month to month, how much can I afford each month? The affluent, and that's where I spent some of my time with those who are, are investing, are making wise choices. They're year to year. So they have a budget. They know how to save, but they don't know how to, in many cases, invest.
Okay.
And then there's the rich mindset, and they're thinking decade to decade.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. They're looking far
Right?
down the line, generations down the line.
Yeah, but then there's the wealth mindset, and the wealth mindset thinks generation to generation, right? And so that's what I learned from being with wealthy families, that multi-generational wealth. Typically, they don't start where we are building it. It has already been built. The great-granddad started it, right?
Yep.
And then the granddad inherited it. And then then the father inherited, and now the child inherits it, right? I live in a resort community, and many of those homes are multi-generational in that the grandson now has a property worth $1 million, and the original investment was less than 50. Wow. And in some cases, the loss was 25. So that's the point that I'm making. Oftentimes, we think that it is a function of earning an income. No, the income is the seed. You have to be the person who plants that asset today, so that generations from now, my children, their children. So I just became a grandmother, right?
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so, my husband and I are already thinking, okay, so what's the first thing? The 529 plan, that's what we did for our kids. The real estate, what are the things that, how is that going to be shared and passed down? And, it's so funny. I'm going to leave you guys with this story. So I have a daughter, and I've coached her the same way. So every time she has a job, we go over 401k, what are the best performing funds? If she moves, we move that money. And she's done quite well. She's only 32. And so we were having a conversation about her portfolio. Now, her brother, he went out and got his own financial advisor. And I'm like, that's great. At least you got a financial advisor. And so he's listening to, how her funds are performing. And I don't say anything to him. And then a couple of days later, he's like, Mother, I think we need to review my portfolio. I was like, oh, okay, that's great. So the point is that, as you get older, you begin to think about, what are you going to leave? And what I'm most grateful for is that I'm leaving them empowered with the knowledge they are. So it's not the wealth that's important, right? Because the assets themselves can be lost. You can lose generational wealth in a generation, right? And so the best thing that you can pass on is the knowledge of how to build it, and to teach them to build it themselves. Because that's the only way you're going to value when something is given to you. So that's why people will get windfalls, from the lottery, or they didn't really earn it. That's why it's lost so quickly, because it literally has no value because they didn't earn it.
Well, I tell you what, Deborah, I have not asked you one question. It is 12:39.
I know.
Honey, our producer, she said it. It's our running joke that I have these questions, and I may get through one or two, but this is the first episode I've yet to ask any questions.
Well, I feel like I'm having a conversation with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you invested in WealthyU and the impact, and that you are an alum, and the impact it has made on your lives. And I do want to encourage your viewers, and I want to give a gift. I want to give a gift. And so I have, for those of you who want to have access to the audiobook of Wealth Secrets, I'm going to put a link. I think I put it in there. Yeah, there's a link that you can post on your replay, or I don't know if you're able to show it during this video, but I want to leave them with the Wealth Secrets audio book, no cost. And I want to thank you for making this opportunity for me. Thank you for sharing your platform with me. I'm really grateful.
I appreciate it. And I tell you, when I thought of different people, I always say that I'm very particular on who I ask.
Oh,
but
I made the cut.
Oh, yeah. Of course you made the cut. But I appreciate it. And I thank you for all the wisdom that you've shared with me over the last 2 years, even to the point that sharing the tax attorney, Beverly Winstead. I mean, I learned from you, and I thought, wow, a tax attorney? Absolutely. So I've learned so much from you, and I appreciate it. And I enjoy reading. I think it was it was 2 years ago that I read Wealth Secrets. And then your other book, I have it, but I haven't started to read it.
A Purse of Your Own, yeah.
Purse of Your Own, okay.
A Purse of Your Own. However, stay tuned, because that book is being updated. Believe it or not, it's its 15th anniversary. As I shared with you, the title of the book is based on my mother's story, and it spurred my work with women, A Purse of Your Own. So I'm excited about the future. And I hope that I want to leave your audience with just some insight. And that insight is that one of my greatest lessons that I ever learned was early in my career. And it's Black Monday. That's how, no, it's Black. Is it Black Monday? Yeah, it's Black Monday or Black Friday. Well, anyway, the market went down 20% in one day. I had just started working at Merrill Lynch, and then we started getting all these sell orders, and people were coming in, sell. And these were a lot of the managers and workers, because I grew up in Detroit. And so, as you can imagine, Chrysler, Ford, I'm in Dearborn, which is Ford country. And so later on that, and so we had all of these tickets. I was pulling my hair and I was like, oh my God, did I pick the wrong field? And then later on that night, all of our wealthy clients were sitting down, had made appointments with the brokers, and then we started getting more tickets. And I was like, oh my, because we would get tickets over. This is how old school it was, pneumatic tubes, like how you used to go through the bank. That's how we would get our tickets and write it down. Well, all day they were all buys. Guess what? The wealthy people, what did their tickets? Were their tickets buys or sales?
I don't know.
They were buys.
So they were buying when it was low.
When everybody else was selling.
Makes sense.
Right. Okay. And that was my greatest lesson. And I would say that even for today, I want you to follow the money. And this is all I want you to know. And I've learned over 2 decades in this business is your greatest opportunity presents itself when there is chaos and disruption.
Wow.
That's where we are right now. Don't be fearful of it. Lean into it and follow the money.
Lean into it and follow the money. Well, I thank you, Mrs. Deborah Owens. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge. I appreciate you sharing a portion of your book. Connie will take care of it, so we can have the link out there for everyone. So for the ladies who are interested, I encourage you to join WealthyU. You will learn a wealth of information that will help you propel your investments, and so they can grow. Deborah, thank you so much again. I appreciate it. And
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So then we're going to close out. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks for Lead Like You Mean It people. Have a good day.